let me tell you about Russia's most ambitious fighter jet, and why it might be both the biggest bargain and the biggest mystery in military aviation. This is a story about the Su-57 Felon, a stealth fighter that costs way less than its American competitors but can't seem to find any buyers. Let's start with something fascinating. At the recent Zhuhai Airshow in China, Russia did something nobody expected. They showed up with their Su-57 and put on a display that left everyone stunned. After years of people saying this jet wasn't worth the metal it's made of, Russia silenced their critics, and at the end of the show, they announced their first foreign sale. But here's where things get really interesting. This jet was supposed to be Russia's answer to America's F-35 and F-22. The Russians designed it specifically for export. They wanted to sell it all over the world. And the price tag? It's a fraction of what you'd pay for an American stealth fighter. It's like finding a Ferrari for the price of a BMW, yet something strange happened. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, this supposedly advanced fighter jet was nowhere to be seen. Think about that. Russia's most advanced warplane sitting on the sidelines during what they call an existential war. Why? Well, that's where our story takes an unexpected turn. You see, when the Russians built the Su-57, they made a decision that would come back to haunt them. They filled it with Western technology. The logic made sense at the time. Using Western components would make it easier to sell to more countries. But then the sanctions hit after the Ukraine invasion, and suddenly Russia couldn't get the parts they needed to build more planes. The numbers tell the story. Russia only ordered 76 of these planes for themselves. That's tiny compared to the thousands of F-35s that America and its allies are buying. And when Western sanctions kicked in, even countries that might have wanted to buy the Su-57 couldn't. They'd face punishment from the West if they did. But here's what makes this jet so fascinating. It's actually survived all these setbacks. The Russians are adapting it to work without Western parts. They're finding new potential buyers. Word is that Algeria might be the first customer. And at that air show in China, they proved the jet can still impress. Let's talk about what makes this plane special. It's supposed to be stealthy like the F-35 but at a much lower price point. While some Western experts argue it's more of a 4.5 generation fighter than a true 5th generation one, the capabilities it's shown are impressive. And unlike China's stealth fighter, the J-20, Russia actually wants to sell this one to other countries. The really wild part? The only Su-57s that have been lost in the Ukraine war weren't shot down in combat. They were destroyed by Ukrainian attacks on Russian air bases. Russia's been keeping these expensive birds safe, which might be smart for protecting their investment but doesn't do much to prove the plane's combat capabilities. What we're seeing here is more than just a story about a fighter jet. It's about how global politics, economics, and technology all intersect. Russia built a plane that was meant to compete with the best in the world, but their own actions in Ukraine ended up crippling its chances for success. It's like building a racing car but then not being able to buy the tires you need to race it. The question now is, can Russia turn this around? Can they rebuild the Su-57 without Western parts? Will countries actually buy it? And most importantly, will we ever see what this jet can really do in combat? For now, the Su-57 remains one of aviation's most intriguing mysteries, a potentially game-changing fighter jet that just can't seem to get off the ground.